Welcome to the 5-Pack, where we talk about the 5 things that matter, 5 things that will matter, and a daily pack rip. Here is your host, Kyle Elfrink.
Welcome in on a Tuesday, coming off the long holiday weekend. Good to have you back with us on BSN. Kyle Elfrink hanging out with you, and I've got a promise for you. We will not be a monumental letdown like Game 7 last night in Boston. We will not be a monumental letdown like Game 6 last night in Dallas. Okay, that's my promise from me to you. Okay, so let's make it work. Man. Hey, sports is sports. Sometimes you think it's all there for a classic and you don't get it. And then you go to a random late July baseball game and it's the best game you've ever seen. You just can't predict this stuff, which keeps us coming back each and every day. That's why we love the sports world. Speaking of being back, good to have Heather Klein back with us on this Tuesday. Great to have you as well. Here is how the hour is going to go today. We will have the 5 things that matter at this very moment. We will have 5 things that will matter as we go in through your Tuesday. And of course, we will have our pack rip, pack break. Today is more of a rip, although it is also a bit of a clip. It's a pack clip. Because when we get these random rack packs, you used to always find these at Kmart. In order to separate the packs of 15 cards apiece, I got to bring the scissors out. Now, I don't know. I'm sure this has happened somewhere. Everybody is on video these days. Surely somebody has sat here with a pair of scissors like I'm about to do and like slice their finger open, right? Our plan is to not do that today. But I am going to have to cut. Now the decision we have, this is 88 Donruss that we are opening today. Now, as we've talked about before, the beauty of the rack pack is you can see the top card. You knew 1/15 of the cards that were in there. You didn't get that with wax packs. So it looks like we have Marvell Wynn. And then I can't really make out this name. I was looking at this right before the show. It looks like Bill Simon, who's like a know-nothing infielder with the New York Mets at the time. Now, neither of these guys did much. Now, Marvell Wynn, he played pretty well throughout the 80s. I remember that. Here he is with San Diego. I remember he was on the Cubs team that made the 89 playoffs. So this is the 88 season, kind of recapping 87. He was with San Diego. So I don't know. And I think Marvell Wynn, if memory serves, he has a son, Marvell Wynn II, who was an MLS soccer player. So maybe we'll clip the Marvell Wynn side here. And sorry, Bill Simon, we'll save you for another day. But that's coming up a bit later in the 5-pack. Let us begin, as we always like to begin, with the 5 things that matter at this very moment. And I knew yesterday, when I was doing the show on the holiday, that it was very easy to predict what would be 2 of the 5 things that matter on Tuesday. And my prediction has come true. Playoff action. We had big games last night, but as noted, neither of the games lived up to the hype. It was kind of a big letdown. More than anything, what you're talking about today is how much of a disappointment the Boston Celtics and the Dallas Stars were. That's really what we're talking about. Let's begin on the hardwood, where it was Game 7 in Boston. We all know the story. Miami jumps out to a 3-0 lead. Nobody in the history of the NBA playoffs has ever come back from a 3-0 deficit. Well, I can tell you today, on May 30th, 2023, that still nobody in the history of the NBA playoffs has ever come back from an 0-3 deficit. When teams get up 3 games to none, they are now 151-0 in terms of winning that series. Last night, the Miami Heat became a success story 151 as they took care of business on the road in Game 7. And honestly, again, this thing wasn't even a game. It fell over at halftime. The Celtics seemed to have nothing. Let's take a look at a few of the highlights from last night's Heat victory.
When you pass up a good look, it's hard to create a second good look. Lowry in the corner, Martin with a 3. Power saw this all the way down. But he's playing a lot better right now. It's called adrenaline. National drive, and Butler has it, and will put up a 3. Good! Big shot by Jimmy Butler. I like this. Make Jason Tatum switch on to Jimmy Butler's got to understand what's going on and go at Jason Tatum on that switch. Or get it to the guy who's been the most consistent scorer. Martin drives right at Tatum. 2 to fire, away, and down it goes.
It was the Caleb Martin, Jimmy Butler show last night. 103-84. I'd love to give you Celtic highlights, but there were none. Like, seriously, Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown, we're back to saying those guys are chokers, I guess, today. Neither of them shot well. What were the final numbers? From 3, they were 2 of 13. Jaylen Brown had 8 turnovers last night. And I mentioned Butler and Martin. Butler had 28. Martin had 26. The Heat are into the NBA Finals. Yes, the Heat, the 8 seed out of the Eastern Conference, is into the NBA Finals. It was impressive. It was damn impressive, dare I say. All the momentum with Boston. They were favored last night by 8 points. 8.5, I think it was, in Vegas. Everybody was planning the Boston-Denver Finals. Instead, it's Miami in Denver. And check this out. Since the year 2000, only one team has made more NBA Finals than the Miami Heat. It's the Lakers. Lakers have made 8. The Miami Heat have now made 7 NBA Finals. Very, very impressive, right? Eric Spoelstra, still only 52 years old, by the way. Eric Spoelstra is, I think he's 4th now in all-time NBA playoff victories. And again, he could coach for another 15 to 20 years. Seriously. 52 years old. He talked last night after the victory, the easy victory, about the fortitude that his team showed losing Game 6 in heartbreaking fashion and then rebounding for the big win last night.
Inevitable setbacks happen, and it's how you deal with that collectively. There's a lot of different ways that it can go. It can sap your spirit. It can take a team down for whatever reason. With this group, it's steeled us and made us closer, made us tougher. And, these are lessons that, hopefully we can pass along to our children, that you can develop this fortitude. And sometimes you have to suffer, for the things that you want. And Game 6, the only thing, that we could do is sometimes you have to laugh at the things that make you cry. We did so many things right. I think from a metric standpoint, we did everything the best that we did all of the playoffs. Our defensive activity numbers, rotations, the extra efforts, the pursuits on the offensive glass, 5 turnovers. We felt like we did all the right things. We had our, season high numbers of attacks, and then to come up short, that could puncture a team spirit. But instead, that just drove us to more resolve to try to get the job done.
I'm a big Spoelstra fan. This is another NBA Finals for Pat Riley, by the way. He's still like team president or something in the front office. The dude has made an insane amount of NBA Finals as a player, as a coach, as an executive. It's something like 25-30% of all of the NBA Finals in the history of the game Pat Riley's been involved with. Finals get going Thursday night in Denver. Nuggets have the home court advantage. They will host Game 1. That is an 8:30 start on ABC. Of note, the Nuggets have not played since last Monday night. By the time they take to the court on Thursday night, they will have taken off 8, 9, 10 days. 10 days without basketball. It's kind of wild. Now, you love rest, but do you want that much rest? We'll see. It would not shock me. And again, we like to build things up, and sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. Nobody really knows. But I don't sense Miami should be as much of a dog as they are. I am going to sit here and tell you Denver is my pick. Denver is the majority pick, and we'll get into some odds later in the show. Denver's the pick. But I will remind everybody, Miami has not been the pick in like any series for this NBA playoff. It's just bonkers what they're doing. As for Boston, they enter an interesting offseason. I mentioned Jaylen Brown, who was not good last night, had 8 turnovers. He is up for a super max extension, which would be near $300 million. Now, hey, Jaylen Brown's good. Jaylen Brown is a pretty good Robin to Jason Tatum's Batman. But are you giving $300 million to that guy? And if you don't give it to him, you're not in a rebuild scenario. You certainly aren't. But you're probably not the 1 or 2 seed in the East next year. You're maybe more like a 5-6 if you move on. So big decisions coming up for Boston. Remember, they fell down 3-0 to an 8 seed. They had a good season. They knocked off the 76ers, 1 game away from the finals, all that. But big decisions to be made in Beantown following the pretty lacking effort last night in Boston. Moving from one lacking effort to another lacking effort, let's go to the NHL playoffs, where the Las Vegas Golden Knights have punched their ticket into the Stanley Cup Finals, and they did it with relative ease, maybe even easier. In fact, I would say it's a lot easier than how the Heat did it against the Celtics. The Knight came out early against the Dallas Stars and had a great first period last night on the road.
He battles Keegan Colasar in the corner. Now it's Waugh. It comes right out in front. Backhand and a goal! William Carrier makes it 1-0 Golden Knights. Delandria couldn't get it out. Barbashev down low. Smith. Rebound goal! William Karlsson. A power play goal, and it's 2-0 Vegas. Martinez and now Keegan Colasar. Ahead for Carrier. Out in front. Colasar scores. Keegan Colasar. His first goal of the series. His first goal in the last 14 games.
3 goals, 14 minutes, a 6-0 butt whooping, right? We can call that a good old-fashioned Texas butt whooping last night in Dallas. Man, oh man. Jonathan Marchessault, a couple of goals last night for the Golden Knights. He now has 10 in the playoffs. That is the all-time best in Vegas postseason history. And don't chuckle and say, well, they're only an expansion team. This team is like a playoff. You have to, if you're going to have the NHL playoffs, you have the Golden Knights in them. And they're making finals. This is their second Stanley Cup final. They're going to be up against Florida. Stanley Cup finals open on Saturday, 8 o'clock over on TNT. Footage there, courtesy of ESPN. Now, Florida is another team, a little bit like the Nuggets, coming off a rest. By the time they take to the ice on Saturday, and that game will be in Vegas on Saturday night, the Panthers will have been off for 10 days. So we've got 2 different sports and 2 different finals. And whereas the team with the long rest, Denver, on the NBA side, they're a heavy favorite. On the NHL side, the team with the long rest, Florida, is a slight underdog. In terms of competitiveness, the odds makers are expecting a longer series on the NHL side than the NBA side. But a big Game 6 win last night, just a huge one. Bruce Cassidy is the head coach there with the Vegas Golden Knights. And, you know, he kind of said after the game, he was not stunned. You're never stunned by how your team plays, but you don't really expect to be on the road after losing the previous 2 games and you just come out. And we hit on it yesterday. It was like the battles, the individual battles that then lead to the success, that then lead to the rubber finding the twine in the back of the net. Bruce Cassidy talked about that a lot going into Game 6. And he came out of that Game 6 and said, hey, what do you know? We won the battles. That was the key. Again, NBA Finals starting up on Thursday, so 2 nights from tonight, and then the NHL Stanley Cup Finals starting up on Saturday, and we'll get you some odds coming up a bit later in the show with our 5 things that will matter. Until then, let's get to number 3 on our 5 things that do matter right now. We go to the world of baseball. A lot of afternoon action yesterday with the Memorial Day holiday. And one of the games that we did point out to you yesterday was Detroit hosting the Texas Rangers. Detroit currently in second place in the AL Central. They were up against first place Texas. Detroit was also up against Nathan Eovaldi, who usually Nathan Eovaldi has kind of been the punchline to a joke, at least in my experience. I mean, seriously, we're 12 years into his career, and it's like, he's just a guy, right? Well, he hasn't been just a guy this year, and notably, he has not been just a guy in the month of May. Yesterday against the Tigers, he completed a stellar month of May.
Just 1.51.
A 2-2, 97 miles an hour, swung up. That doesn't sound pleasant at all. Here's the 3-2 to short, and that one is a called strike front door. So far, Baez has not been that guy, as you see a real 0-2 once again. Breaking ball swung on and missed, and Eovaldi is out of the inning.
That was all in 5 innings yesterday against Detroit. Eovaldi with 5 shutout innings. Corey Seager had a big home run. Rangers win at 5-0. And check out the month of May for Nathan Eovaldi. 5 starts, 4 victories, an ERA that was under 1, a whip that was under 0.9, 37 2/3 innings for Nathan Eovaldi. We're probably going to find out in like 3 or 4 days that he was the American League Pitcher of the Month. Now, before you get all excited about Nathan Eovaldi, let me pull your horses in, okay? First off, Nathan Eovaldi, I mentioned 12 years. How many times, dear viewer, do you believe that Nathan Eovaldi has thrown more than 155 innings? Not 200, not 175, 155 innings. Shouldn't be tough, right? 150. In 12 major league seasons, Nathan Eovaldi, pitching his butt off right now, has 2 years with more than 155 innings. 2. What I'm getting at is, who cares? And I say that and may come, oh, who cares until we get to September? Talk to me then, Nathan Eovaldi, okay? He leads baseball in complete games. This guy who can't last, who can't throw 160 innings, he's got 2 complete games this year, tops in baseball. Now, here's the issue. I was looking at his career marks, and what do you know? Nathan Eovaldi, 12 years here. Good in April. Really good in May. And then he falls off a cliff in June, July, August. So here we go. It's up to you, Nathan Eovaldi. Prove your career wrong. Change the storyline, if you will. Now, the Rangers are playing good baseball. They're doing it without DeGrom. Didn't have Seager for a long time. One of the reasons they're tops in the AL West is that guy, Nathan Eovaldi. Now, if you think I'm totally wrong, the great thing about 2023, you can obviously yell at me. You know, you can yell at your computer screen if you're one of those people. Go at it, yell. You can also put your money where your mouth is and say, you know what, Kyle, you're wrong. Well, you can go and make some bets on Nathan Eovaldi. If you believe Nathan Eovaldi could win the Cy Young Award, right now at this very moment, your odds are plus 1,800. He is the 7th pick out of the American League, plus 1,800. Those are good odds if you think Nathan Eovaldi can keep it up. I do not. Great May. Congratulations on your May, but I remind everybody it is a very long season, and throughout his career, it's been a very long season for Nathan Eovaldi. Can't trust the guy. Wouldn't touch him. Wouldn't touch him. Speaking of how long the baseball season can be, I give you item number 4 today on what does matter. It is the Pittsburgh Pirates. I hate to be the bearer of bad news, but for the first time since April 2nd, the Pittsburgh Pirates, one of the top stories of the month of April, the Pittsburgh Pirates, for the first time since April 2nd, are a sub-500 team. Yes, all those wins they piled up, all that goodwill that they built, it's dissipated. It's gone. Yesterday, they were on the road in San Francisco, and the Giants beat up on the Pirates bullpen late.
Line drive, that'll be a base hit. Here comes J.D. Davis. Wade is going to go to third. A strong throw to second. Not in time. And the Giants lead 7-3. Base hit, left field. Coming around and scoring is Haniger. And Casey Schmidt with his third hit. Bailey drives one. Deep to right. Out of here. Well, he's got one from both sides now.
And for the second time today, the Giants have put a 5 spot on the board.
And they put a little more damage on the board. Final score 14-4. NBC Sportsnet out of the Bay Area providing that footage there. So, yes, the Pirates are now under 500. Let's see. Record now is sitting at, want to make sure I got this right. We don't want to take away any victories from the Pirates that they've earned. 26-27. Tonight, they can get back to 500. Johan Oviedo against John Brebbia. Oviedo was one of those guys in April's that was the surprise. It's like, wow, Mitch Keller's pitching well. And who is this Oviedo guy? Oviedo's still pitching okay. The problem, although yesterday he gave up 14 runs, the problem has not so much been the starting pitching. It was good in April. It hasn't been bad in May. The problem in May, which is a month where the Pirates have now gone 6-18. Problem this month is that the offense has just fallen down everywhere. You're still getting pretty good seasons from like a McCutchen. Brian Reynolds is doing fine, but all of the numbers have slacked a good 10 to 15%. If you look at the National League offensive rankings, Pirates are, bottom 4, bottom 5, almost everywhere offensively. The one place they really stand out is stolen bases. But even then, they're number 1 in the number of stolen bases. I think they have 58. The problem is they've been thrown out 19 times, which is about a 75% success rate. In years past, totally fine. But in 2023, you got to be at 80%. I mean, with all the rule changes, you need to be at 80%. Pirates are coming in at 75%, little lower than you might like. They're still in bases, but they're not hugely successful in that front. They're just running a lot. We'll see if they can get back to 500 tonight. They're still not out of it, by the way. Hey, it's the NL Central. Everybody's in the NL Central. 9:40 tonight, Oviedo going against Brebbia. Finally, our fifth issue, our fifth sporting moment that matters. We leave you, at least for this segment, with some good news. We leave you with some good news from the south side of Chicago. We haven't had much of that from the White Sox this season, but last night on Memorial Day, it was the triumphant return of closer Liam Hendriks. For those who are not familiar with the story, it was just back in January that Liam Hendriks revealed that he had stage 4 non-Hodgkin's lymphoma cancer. Stage 4. That was like 4.5 months ago. In early April or about mid-April, he announced after a lot of chemo and radiation that the cancer was gone. He'd been cured, if you will. So that began the road back to a major league mound. Last night in Chicago, Liam Hendriks got back onto that major league mound, and here was the welcome, if you will, from the White Sox faithful.
This moment is so much for her as it is for him.
Well, I love the fact that Theis is not getting in the batter's box. He is standing off to the side, allowing Liam to get all the accolades he richly deserves.
In one way, Theis iced him in an effort to be kind. First pitch, Liam Hendriks, 96, strike one.
And they're going to take that baseball out of the game, and Liam is going to take that ball and keep it for the rest of his life.
Quite a scene there at U.S. Cellular Park in Chicago. Liam Hendriks returning. Now, the first pitch was a strike. He saw his wife there in the stands, and obviously the results are beside the point. Inning was not that great for Liam Hendriks, who is one of the top closers in all of baseball. Gave up a couple of runs, 3 hits against the Angels, but the triumphant return, certainly a moment to watch, certainly a moment to be a part of, and certainly a moment to appreciate here today on the 5-pack. He was in the 8th inning last night. He'll be back in the 9th inning soon. The White Sox have been pretty awful closing down games. They haven't won a lot of games either. It's been a bad season, but certainly that's a highlight there. Liam Hendriks making his return to the Chicago mound. Okay, those are the 5 things that matter right now. When we return, we will have the 5 things that will matter as we take you through your Tuesday. First, though, let's hand it off to Mark Malusis, who's got some more thoughts on the Miami Heat making the NBA Finals.
It is absolutely real, and it is beautiful, what I'm speaking of. And it pains me to say this as a longtime Knicks fan, watching Pat Riley and Alonzo Mourning up in Boston last night. I speak of Heat culture. It started about 25 plus years ago when Miami Heat brought in Pat Riley after he faxed his resignation over to the New York Knicks. And listen, last night it was on full display up in Boston against the Celtics as they win that game 103-84 after blowing a 3-games-to-none lead with a Game 7. That series tied up at 3 games apiece. The Celtics on the precipice of history, and I understand Tatum was dealing with an ankle injury. Jaylen Brown was terrible with his 8 turnovers over the course of the basketball game as well. The Celtics couldn't throw the ball into the proverbial ocean as they were 9 of 42 from the behind the arc, and they kept on hoisting 1-3 after another. For Miami, they were beautiful. You know what they did? They were fantastic on the defensive glass. They had 35 rebounds. They had less turnovers, only 12 for the entire basketball game. They shot 50% from behind the arc. Jimmy Butler, their main guy, dropped in 28, and they got a virtuoso Game 7 performance from the guy that should have been the MVP of the Eastern Conference Finals. How about Caleb Martin with 26 points as he was 11 of 16 from the floor? So even though, listen, I can't stand the Miami Heat, and I don't know if they're necessarily going to win and beat the Denver Nuggets in the NBA Finals, I will say this. What they're doing down in Miami is really special. Spoelstra might be the best head coach in the NBA. Heat culture is absolutely real, and you saw it last night to the chagrin of each and every Celtic fan across this country. Check out the comments below for a special offer from our friends at Fantasy Alarm.
Welcome back to the 5-pack. Next up, the 5 things that will matter. Here's Kyle Elfrink.
Good to have you back with us. Kyle Elfrink with you on Better Sports Network. It is our daily 5-pack. Each and every day we get rolling from 12 to 1 o'clock. Appreciate you tuning in. We're going to have our pack rip coming up in just a bit. Some 88 Donruss. Do want to remind you, coming up right when we are done at 1 o'clock, you got Andrew, Britt, and Kevin coming your way with a lightning round fantasy football. And later tonight, for all you golfing fantasy lovers, DFS, season long, whatever, Tour Junkies, back getting you set for the upcoming weekend. 7 o'clock Eastern is the rundown tonight. Also want to point you in the direction of our friends at Fantasy Alarm. They are, of course, pretty well every day coming out with more and more football, on and on and on. They're releasing all sorts of stuff with Best Ball. They're teaming up with Underdog Fantasy. In fact, right now, if you go to fantasyalarm.com/underdog, you can get a $100 match on your first deposit with Underdog Fantasy. Just use the promo code Fantasy Alarm. Promo code Fantasy Alarm, all one word. That is a $100 match on your first deposit over at Underdog Fantasy. Tell you more about Fantasy Alarm coming up in a bit, but right now let's get to our 5 things that will matter as we get rolling on this Tuesday. And I feel like every 5 or 6 days I'm saying this next thing, so let's say it again today. Tonight, looking to hold on to his perfect start to the season, looking to continue to grow his win total, continue to be at the top of the MLB leaderboard. Tonight, gunning for a 9-0 start to the 2023 season is Tampa Bay Ray left-hander Shane McClanahan, who this doesn't often happen, but it's happening now. Like, McClanahan was kind of the it pick to win the Cy Young in the American League. Well, the it pick is doing it. Check out those numbers. He's 8-0, sub-2 ERA. The whip's looking good. The strikeouts are looking good. McClanahan on tonight is pitching, I should say, at Wrigley Field. If you're worried about the weather, it's fine. I think it's like mid-60s and a slight wind actually blowing in, so he doesn't have to worry about like 40 degrees with a 25-mile-an-hour wind howling into left field. Here's the thing with McClanahan. Tonight will be his 12th start. In the first 11 starts, the Tampa Bay Rays are 10-1. Now, as we know, they've got the best record in baseball, so it's no shocker that they are 10-1. But what kind of caught me off guard with McClanahan is as dominant as those numbers are. I mean, those are dominating numbers for Shane McClanahan. How about this? Two things. 11 starts. He is at 64 innings. 64. And this is not a hot shot southpaw who's never pitched for the major leagues. I mean, last year he threw almost 170 innings. 64 innings in 11 starts with as dominating as he has been is a bit of a letdown. Now, I get it. It's 2023. Furthermore, the Tampa Bay Rays, and again, I'm not talking about a guy with a 4.5 ERA. The Tampa Bay Rays have seen this sort of dominance from McClanahan, and yet he has thrown 100 pitches one time this year. One time. So this is probably more on me than it is on the Rays or McClanahan. After all, he's kicking tail. After all, the Rays continue to take over the baseball world. But it's just like, this is the best guy going, and we can't even get him to 100 pitches in a game. 1 out of 11, 100 pitches. He's averaging under 6 innings a start, which, you know, if I'm throwing up a 2 ERA and a 1 whip, I want to be at 75 innings, not 60. So I get it. It's more on me. Again, it's 2023. I will say, last week I kind of complained about the odds. Like, if you want to look at futures for American League Cy Young, last time I looked at him, Garrett Cole, for some reason, was still number 1. And I said it on this very show. I told you, get in on the McClanahan number. Well, I checked it today. Flip-flop action. McClanahan is now ahead of Garrett Cole. This is over at DraftKings. McClanahan is plus 350 to win the Cy Young Award. Cole is plus 400. I think Cole was 400 last week. McClanahan was 450. Now McClanahan's 350. They're finally figuring it out in Vegas. Finally. If you had listened to me last week, you figured it out a long time and got better odds on McClanahan. A lot better odds there. 8:05 tonight, McClanahan is up against Kyle Hendricks. Speaking of odds, Tampa minus 130 to win. Cubs are plus 160. Over-under is 8.5 for that game tonight. McClanahan is actually even money for a straight-up victory, plus 100 to earn the victory and improve to 9-0. Let's go to item number 2. Speaking of the American League East, and it's not a blowout. If you haven't looked at the American League East standings lately, Tampa's not running away with this thing. In fact, 2 teams behind them are definitely behind them, but they're not out of it. Baltimore is 4 games back. The Yankees are 6 games back. That is team number 2 and team number 3 in the American League East. But as we talk about the 5 things that will matter today, we've got some very important MRI scans coming up for both Baltimore and for New York, and both the scans involve their center fielders. Cedric Mullins in Baltimore, Harrison Bader in New York. Both these guys left the game last night. Looks like we have Bader with a hamstring, Mullins with either like an abdomen or growing. Again, they're going to have a further, medical advice given today, do the MRI, all that good stuff. Here's the deal. These 2 guys are critical to their 2 teams having a shot to catch Tampa. And I get it. When you think of the Yankees, you don't think of Harrison Bader, do you? I get it. When you think of the Orioles, you probably think of Adley Rauschman early. and then maybe get to Mullins. But Mullins is kind of this very good player that people are still almost being introduced to. And the Mullins case probably sounds the worst. Now, again, Bader's dealing with a hamstring. Who knows how long that takes? After the game, which Baltimore had a lousy offensive effort yesterday against Cleveland, they lost 5-0. Reading some things on the Orioles locker room and Brandon Hyde, the manager, it didn't sound like good news for Cedric Mullins. It sounded like we're going to find out probably in the next hour or two that he's on the IL. And that is notable for a lot of reasons. Let's go through them. The number one WAR player for the Orioles offense is Cedric Mullins. His OPS plus, or OPS, I should say, is over 830. Plays a very good center field. Listen to this. Baltimore's having a really good season. The Orioles have yet to lose a position player to the IL this year. Last season, when the Orioles surprised everybody in baseball, they did not place any of their outfielders on the IL once last year. Furthermore, Cedric Mullins, he's in his 6th major league season. If he's placed on the IL today, that'll be the first time in his career. So you throw all this together, it's like, whoa, the Orioles have not had to deal with this. If they lose Mullins for any amount of time, it's Ryan McKenna in center field. So that's a big one. What is going to be the status? What is the report on Cedric Mullins? How long is he going to be out in the lineup? Now, as for the Yankees, they don't play until later tonight. They're on the West Coast in Seattle, so the news may come a little later for them. But I wouldn't be surprised to see Harrison Bader on the IL. Now, he is much different from Mullins. Harrison Bader can't really stay healthy. And I know to a lot of people, Harrison Bader does not matter. But I'll tell you this, Harrison Bader, outside of Aaron Judge, has been the best hitter for the Yankees over the last month. And he started the year on the IL. He came back, and here are the numbers. He's got 6 homers, 19 ribbies in 26 games. His OPS is over 800. Now, I was talking about replacements with the Orioles. Ryan McKenna, that's a big fall from Cedric Mullins. Replacement for Bader, defensively, you move Aaron Judge to center field. The problem is you move him to center field. Who do you have in right field? You've got like Oswaldo Cabrera or Greg Allen or Jake Bowers. So, again, status of these two center fielders in that American League race, very important. We'll get the news today. And again, now Baltimore is 4 back of Tampa, the Yankees 6 back. Of course, with the wild card and the expanded playoffs, both those teams still trying to get as many victories as they can to lock up October as we sit here in May. I'm talking about October here in May. Okay, let's go to item number 3 of what will matter today. We have spent a lot of time picking on the hapless Oakland A's, right? We picked on the A's. Everybody's picking on the A's. Well, today, or tonight more specifically, we could have a minor miracle. Like, seriously, something that you only read about in, like, the Gospel of John. A minor miracle could occur tonight in Oakland. The minor miracle would be this. The Oakland A's do have a chance to not only win 2 straight games, but they may do it against the Atlanta Braves. The Braves. Let's take you to last night, because I don't know if I'm ever going to get to do this again for the rest of the summer. Let's look at the Oakland A's scoring some runs against the Atlanta Braves on Monday night.
Who's list ahead of them. That's a fly ball deep down the line and right. Acuna gives chase, takes a look. It's over the wall and gone. Ryan Noda connects. Mike Soroka. 3. That's going to find its way through, and Diaz will come around third. Waved home by Allen, or by Martins rather. Go to third base is Allen. He's there safe, and up to second on the throws Laureano. The A's extend the advantage to 5-2.
Just look at them hard-hitting A's, baby. They got to celebrate a win last night. How about that? 7-2 over Atlanta, NBC Sports Bay Area, with the exciting footage. That win last night broke an 11-game losing streak. That win last night is the 5th win in 30 days for the Oakland A's. So tonight, can they do it again? That is the question. If you were to look at Atlanta compared to Oakland, Oakland is 22 games worse off than the Atlanta Braves. By the way, with the Braves, I did notice this. I was looking at the Michael Harris II. Michael Harris II. Has anybody bothered to look at his gigantic sophomore slump this year? He was being pimped out everywhere in fantasy circles as like a top 4 round pick. He has been one of the biggest failures in baseball this year. I mean, he's hitting 175. I looked the last 2 weeks, he is 4 for 39. He's hitting like 100. 4 for 39. And he's hitting 9th every single game. Sounds more like an Oakland A, doesn't it? Kind of did to me. 9:40 tonight, the Oakland A's will go for the unthinkable. A 2-game winning streak. Let's go, A's. Go get them. 2 in a row against the Braves as well. It's going to be Bryce Elder against J.P. Sears. I'm sure you'll all be tuning in. Seriously, all of you. Let's go to our fourth item on the agenda of things that will matter. Going to hit you with one you wouldn't expect. You know what's going to matter beginning today? How about the annual Southeastern Conference meetings? Meetings, not games. Meetings. There it is, the SEC. Now, that is the current SEC, also known as the Junior NFL. Here's the thing with the SEC. It is by far, it's not even close, the most important conference in college football. Next year, 2024, they're going to be bringing in Oklahoma and Texas. Now, I'm speaking about this purely from a football perspective. With the addition of those 2 schools, the SEC is going to be at 16 schools. They are a powerhouse conference. Like literally every year, 8 to 10 of those teams are going to be in the preseason top 25. The problem the SEC has, and something they're going to start trying to figure out today, is what do they do with the schedule? It has traditionally, in years past, been an 8-game schedule, but now you bring in Texas, you bring in Oklahoma, now you've got teams in South Carolina, teams over in Texas. You're getting huge. You're a 16-team league. You are also the most powerful conference in college football. You are given more credit. Like all these teams, just being a part of the SEC, they get a huge amount of credit. Therefore, they're ranked higher. Therefore, they make better bowls. Therefore, they can get into a BCS playoff. It is very important to all these teams to decide out, okay, what kind of schedule sets up our league for more success? Because the goal is, Alabama's great. It's great to have Alabama every year in the BCS tournament. But let's try to get 3 or 4 SEC teams into the BCS tournament. So the question is, how do you do that? And I mentioned 8 games. That's the tradition. They are thinking about a 9-game schedule. And there is a little more outwork here than just kind of laying the road, laying the groundwork for teams to make it to those big money games. The SEC also is a very strong rivalry league. There are great rivalries throughout the SEC. Some of them you know about, everybody knows about Bama, Auburn. Others you don't know as much about. Georgia, South Carolina, big rivalry. So when you go to 9 games, which the SEC is going to, have a vote later this week, I think it's going to be on Friday. If they go to 9 games, the way that would work out is you would play 3 opponents every single year. In effect, 3 rivalry games every single year. If you keep it at 8 with the new arrivals of OU, the new arrival of UT, and a 16, all of a sudden you have, in effect, 1 rivalry game. Now, everybody who's written about this decision with the SEC says you have to go 9. Why wouldn't you go 9? And it appears all the fan bases want 9. But it sounds like we're looking at 8 maybe as the vote. And I should note, Oklahoma and Texas don't have a vote this week. And you may say, well, it's scheduled. Who cares? This is the SEC, folks. It matters more, as they like to say. It just matters more, right? This is a huge money-making powerhouse of college football. College football gets bigger and bigger every year. It's just like the NFL is growing by leaps and bounds, and the SEC is at the forefront. This matters. This matters a lot. This decision, 8 games, 9 games, kind of changes the outlook of the BCS tournament that's going to start up soon. So we'll see what's decided. It sounds like the commissioner, Greg Sankey, wants 9 games. Like everything says 9 games, but there must be these random holdouts within the conference who are wanting 8 games. And the reason they want 8 games is it allows them to beat up on an extra non-conference opponent. So a mediocre SEC team, a Kentucky, a Missouri, an Arkansas, certainly a Vanderbilt, a mediocre SEC team is saying, we're just trying to get to a bowl game. We're not trying to get all the way to the BCS. We're trying to get bowl games. Get that money. Do we really want an extra game against Alabama or an extra game against Georgia? Or would we rather take on, like, southeastern Idaho State? And that may, competitively, you're like, no, let's play a bigger conference schedule. And I think the big boys want it. The Bamas, the Georgias, the Floridas, it's getting the little guys to jump on board. So meetings will commence today with the SEC. All the voices will be heard, but not Oklahoma and Texas. They won't have a vote yet. They will arrive next year, by the way. So we'll see what shakes out with the SEC. Something to follow. Finally, item number 5 on what will matter. Get your bets in. We've got the NBA Finals and the Stanley Cup Championship all set. Of course, the finals begin on Thursday. Miami going to be visiting Denver. We've got the early odds for that game. Denver is favored by 8.5 on Thursday. And if you go over to DraftKings, you can check out all of the series odds. Now, if you are really into this world of wagering, you want to get to these odds early. So let me give them to you. Denver is minus 400 to win the NBA Finals. Miami is plus 310. That is a very heavy favorite on Denver. The odds say Denver wins this thing in 5. They're listed at plus 265. If you say yes, it's going to be Denver in 5. Finals MVP, Nikola Jokic is a heavy favorite, minus 360. How about this number on the futures table? Jokic to average a triple-double in the series, to average, is minus 125. That is insane, to average a triple-double. Here's another one that's insane. Jokic to lead both teams in assists is minus 20,000. Jokic to lead both teams in rebounds is minus 20,000. Jokic to lead both teams in points, plus 115. I couldn't believe the minus 20,000. Minus 20,000 assist and rebound. And I get it, but man, who's making that bet? Why would you? Why would you? Switching gears to the Stanley Cup Finals. This series is seen as a much tighter series. There you see the schedule. Right now, Vegas to win the series, minus 130. Florida is plus 110. The odds have Vegas winning this one in 7 at plus 200. Now, game 1's coming up on Saturday night, as you can see there. Vegas minus 135 to win game 1. Florida is plus 115. Couple of other bets that you might be interested on the hockey side. Conn Smythe, Sergei Bobrovsky is your leader at plus 210. Matthew Tkachuk is plus 290. Most goals in the series, Tkachuk plus 450. Jack Eichel of the Knights is plus 550. The over-under for goals in the series is 33.5. Juice to the under. And here's a good one. Any player to score a hat trick in the series, plus 225. Any player. Florida or Vegas. So there you go. Get your bets in early. And it may already be too late. I mean, those odds are ever evolving, ever changing. NBA Finals on Thursday. NHL Stanley Cup Finals coming up on Saturday. But those are the early odds as the series and the matchups have been set. Okay, break for us. When we come back, it's pack time. It's 1988 Donruss. Man, what a great sale. Stick around for 1988 Donruss. Maybe I'll have a story or two. Maybe I'll enlighten you just a bit. We'll do it next, right here on the 5-Pack.
Hey, it's Rick Hamler for Better Sports Network. Who's Miami's Robin right now? Jimmy Butler's their Batman, won Eastern Conference Finals MVP, and rightly so. But right now, Miami's Robin is Caleb Martin. Even though Bam Adebayo was Miami's only All-Star. Game 7, Caleb went 26-10. Bam went 12-10-7 East Finals. Caleb went 19-6 on 60%. Bam went 15-9 on 48%. In fact, Caleb Martin was better than Boston's Robin in the East Finals. In the big picture, I'd rather have Brown or Adebayo than Caleb Martin, but right now he's outplaying both of them, and the Heat are going to need Caleb Martin to continue his Robin ways against Nedver because Bam Adebayo is going to have his hands full with the Joker, and Tyler Hero won't be back until Game 3. Be sure to check out the comments below for a special offer from our friends at Fantasy Alarm.
Time now for the Daily Pack Rip on the 5-Pack with Kyle Elfrink.
Just heard our man Ricky Props mention Fantasy Alarm. If you head over there right now, you can check out a few articles. I know they've got a Memorial Preview PGA tournament coming up this weekend, so you can get a preview there from a DFS perspective. Also, some waiver wire advice for you baseball players out there. Most noteworthy, Royce Lewis of the Minnesota Twins. He's back in the big leagues. Also, there are some DFS previews not only for baseball tonight over at Fantasy Alarm, but also WNBA if you're getting set for some action tonight. So again, check it out over at Fantasy Alarm. And when you are there, if you've never signed up, been a member at Fantasy Alarm, you can get the next 6 months at 50% off. Fantasy Alarm 50. Fantasy Alarm 50 is the code to use. And again, 50% off for 6 months of coverage. Okay, let's get to our pack rip for the day. 1988 Donruss. Congratulations to me. I cut the rack pack without slicing my finger. 88 Donruss. Stan Musial was the puzzle piece card. You can't have Donruss without the puzzle pieces. Let's get to the card, shall we? We start with Bill Ullman. I think I said Bill Simon. I couldn't. Bill Ullman. It appears to me, based off this photo, that Bill Ullman snuck into Shea Stadium, slapped on a uniform, popped on a helmet, grabbed a bat, and fooled the Donruss photographer. Who are you, sir? I'm Bill Ullman. Okay, you look like a player. What position do you play, Bill? I'm an infielder. I don't have a real position. I'm just an infielder. I joke about Bill Ullman, and then I look at the back of this baseball card, and it's like, what? In 1983, he played 145 games with the A's? This guy? You thought the A's were bad in 2023? How bad were they in 1983? This guy got to play 145 games? Sorry, Bill. Here's a better player, but, you know, this is – ooh, we got a nice card coming up. This is the thing with like 87, 88. This is why you had to have Upper Deck and the big boys come in. Like, okay, you got Ryne Sandberg. Ryne Sandberg's a superstar. Here's your 1988 Donruss card of Ryne Sandberg. Like, seriously. It's at Wrigley Field pregame. We couldn't stick around and take a photo in the third inning. He's one of the best players in baseball, and this is all he gets. Jeez. Now, I remember this card was a hot card back in the day. And I did not know this, but on his rookie card, it lists him as a shortstop. And, of course, we know him as a Hall of Fame second baseman, Roberto Alomar with San Diego. This card actually might be worth more than a quarter. Now, don't get carried away. It's not a PSA 10. I can already tell by looking at this card. It's totally off-centered. But anyway, kind of a cool card. Alomar starting with San Diego. He was a part of the trade. How he got to Toronto, he was a part of the Fred McGriff trade, which was a big trade back in the day. I think it was 88, 89. Roberto Alomar had not played a major league game at the time of this card. So this is kind of his rated rookie. This is a true rookie card for Roberto Alomar. Phil Bradley. I know this guy from the University of Missouri. Phil Bradley was actually a quarterback for the Missouri Tigers in the old Big 8 back in the 80s. Two-sport star, if you will. Not to the level of Bo Jackson, but a two-sport star nonetheless. Bob Forsch, the author of, I believe, 2 no-hitters for the St. Louis Cardinals. Nobody else has done that for the Cardinals. Bob Forsch did. Interviewed Bob a couple of times. Great guy. Passed away a couple of years ago, I want to say. And he was pretty young. I think he was mid to upper 60s. But Bob Forsch, a very important part of kind of the 70s and 80s for the Cardinals. Tim Tuffle, who it's kind of amazing. The Mets were actually pretty good back in 86 to 88, and they had these two guys. Really? Bill Ullman and Tim Tuffle? And you still won a lot of games? Yes, they did. Jeff Stone, who this is kind of wild. I got to look this up, see if I'm right. I believe I'm right. I'll look this up probably post-show. Jeff Stone, here he is, outfielder for Philadelphia, and Phil Bradley, outfielder for the Mariners. Both these guys, I believe, played football for the University of Missouri. Don't know that for a fact. I think Stone went to Mizzou. May have to look that up. He is from Missouri. Jeff Stone, a little town called Kennett, Missouri, which is in very, very southern Missouri. Kennett, Missouri is also the birthplace and hometown of one Sheryl Crow. So you might not know Jeff Stone from Kennett, Missouri, but you probably know Sheryl Crow. Here is James Steels. With a name like Steels, you better have been stealing bases. I can't speak to his career, but in 1987, he had 3 thefts in 62 games. His problem was he couldn't get on base. He hit 191. But Jeff Steels. Ricky Henderson would have paid for that name. Here's Al Pedrique. Golly. Al Pedrique. Man, he looks like a pirate today. Chris Spire, who was kind of a jack of all trades when he was a player. He did become a coach. He might even still be a coach for the San Francisco Giants. But he was kind of the, proverbial utility man all over the infield. Chris Bosio, pitcher for the Milwaukee Brewers, didn't do a whole lot. Had a year or two where he was solid. Here's another Met who you wouldn't say, wow, that guy's a big baseball player. John Candelaria. Well, I know Met fans probably have a special moment that featured John Candelaria, but for the rest of us, not so much. Have the cool jacket, though. Bring those things back. I like that. Jim Sundberg, catcher for the Chicago Cubs, also did some catching with the Texas Rangers. And dare I say that the Donruss photographer came out on the same day at Wrigley Field and got pregame photos of Jim Sundberg and Ryan Sandberg. Ugh. Oh, my goodness. I don't think we've had this happen. Every single day we open packs. Every single day I kind of mock the packs. How about this? I got a second Roberto Alomar rated rookie. 2 of them. I got 2 Roberto Alomars. Man, it's my lucky day. I'm going to go play the lottery. How about that? Are both off-centered? They look like, yeah, they're off the exact same cut. You probably can't tell on camera, but I don't think these would be graded at 10. And then we close it down with Jim Presley. Man, how about that? 2 Roberto Alomar rated rookies. We have to find out. I may not be here tomorrow. Maybe I'm going to retire and cash these out. I don't know. I'm guessing maybe $1.50 a card, which makes it a winner, right? Makes it an absolute winner. I think it's safe to say. There you go, 88 Donruss. Like, this is literally, I think, one of the better cards you can get in the 88 Donruss. So we got 2 of them today on the 5-pack. Still a very unattractive set. The back was typical Donruss. I guess they switched to blue this year. They had done blue, I think, in 86, and then they went yellow in 87, and they might have flip-flopped every single year. Good information. You didn't get, like, every season like Topps gave you, but you got those career highlights. You got all the bio stuff. And, hey, on occasion, Donruss would even gift you with 2 Roberto Alomar rated rookies. Okay, we're going to call that a win. All right, let's call it a win. That is the 5-pack for today. Tomorrow we'll hit you with more packs. Maybe we'll sneak a football pack in tomorrow. I want to thank Heather Klein. I want to thank you. We'll see you tomorrow, 12 Eastern, right here on the Better Sports Network.